Hello everybody and welcome to the start of a very special new series on the Royal Blue podcast. It's Goodison Park, my home, and as I'm sure you can see already now, I've got a big guest to start with. Is the club's most successful captain, Kevin Ratcliffe, and we're at the Cheshire Cat in Christleton, so thanks for that, for hosting us today. How are you, Kevin?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to discuss your life and times at Goodison Park, and that goes back a long way, even beyond your playing days. I can just start at the very beginning, because you were, an Evertonian as a lad. What was your match day routine like, and coming over from North Wales?
As in supported?
Yeah.
Getting in a squash car with my dad and his three brothers.
Right.
Two brothers were sort of disabled, so obviously there's a wheelchair in the car as well.
Okay.
And me. And a stool.
Okay.
That my dad had made for me. So I used to go to Goodison, sort of late 60s. Remember the old stand?
The old main stand?
Old main stand. Yeah. And obviously, recollection is that I was in the old stand. And Dad used to go in with his season ticket, and I used to go under the stile with my chair.
Okay, with your little stool,
with a little stool, and then sit. They always had like end seats, because my uncles with the steps and everything. Obviously, there wasn't that sort of criteria where there was lifts and everything there. So they were a little bit better then, but later on, they needed lifts, and thankfully they did put lifts in the ground. And I used to have a stool by the side of them.
Like Marcelo Bielsa almost.
That was my early recollection of going around about 60. I know it was after the 66 Cup final.
Okay.
So I wasn't going every week, but I was, sort of going there.
So you could see Harvey Kendall and Ball, the likes of it.
Yeah, managed to see George Best playing at Goodison. Man United against Everton, Bally, Ray Wilson, and then it was fantastic times, to see them players.
Yeah,
Labby, John Hurst, unfortunately not with us anymore.
Yeah.
But all them players from that area. Mm-hmm. I was growing up with them. Yeah, growing up with the 70s side.
So in many ways, it was always a dream to go out there yourself at Goodison Park.
Yeah, well, definitely so. That was my dream. Yeah, that was my dream as a footballer. If I was going to be a footballer, that I wanted to play for Everton. I wanted to play at Goodison Park, and I wanted to play for Wales.
Yeah,
that they were my two ambitions: was to play for Everton and play for Wales.
Mm-hmm.
Never had the ambition to captain.
Right,
that just seemed to follow suit for some reason. Yeah. Obviously, winning things wasn't in my mind at the time, because that just sort of comes along, and as quick as it come along, it went.
Right.
So, it was, at the time, you're taking it all in. Yeah. Maybe you'd look back and do things differently before and afterwards. I don't know. Before, you must have been doing the right things.
Yeah.
But maybe afterwards, as in celebration. But they seem to sort of enjoy themselves a little bit more celebrating now than what we did. But I think we did it in a different way.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously the great success on the Howard Kendall, but we're just going back right to the start. We're checking through the records, and we're saying, so you made your debut at Manchester United. You had a few away games. You had the FA Cup semi-final. You played in a game at Tottenham, then a game at Sunderland to start the following season under Gordon Lee. And then your debut, your home debut, finally came against Leicester City. But we're checking the records. It was a very different team than the one that go on to win on all those trophies on the Howard. On the Gordon Lee there, and like I said, you were the only one who sort of continued.
Yeah, in that game, I think there was a few of us that were there. Obviously, Graham Sharpie
the one,
and Nev hadn't arrived.
Yeah,
I don't even think. Well, I'm not too sure if the likes of Gary Stevens and Kevin Richardson was in the reserves.
Right, okay,
they were apprentices. I think.
Yeah,
more than anything. So I think they could have been there when I was playing, and they would have been because they're only a couple of years younger.
Yeah.
Ironically, I can't even remember my home debut.
Yeah.
You've reminded me it was against Leicester.
You've had many more memorable matches, obviously.
Yeah. It was my debut that you remember.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Big Joe Jordan.
Yeah. And then obviously, you think you can't get any bigger than that, and you get called into the the replay against West Ham, where I was on the Saturday, I was actually playing in the reserves, wasn't even in the squad.
Really?
So I get to the ground, get called into the squad, and I think it's just for a bit of experience, maybe put the boots out. Well, we didn't have a kit man then.
No. Even before Jimmy Martin's time.
He wasn't even driving the bus then. That was Cyril. So, it's, you're looking back and you're thinking there's no chance. Yeah. And I always remember John McBride was in the squad as well. So we're all thinking John McBride's going to actually play. He's going to take the place of Brian Kidd, who got sent off. And I remember getting in the lift and we'd gone up to our room, Mum's room, with John McBride, and goes upstairs and the lift doors open and in walks Gordon Lee. Gordon Lee walks in, we walk out, we're on the same floor. As we walk out, Gordon says, "Excuse me, lads." And we both turned around and he just pointed at me and went, "You're playing, you're not." Well, Joe McBride, and that was it. That was the way that Joe McBride found out he wasn't playing, and the way that I found out that I was playing. Yeah. If that was the wet days, what happened them days, then, I'm not quite sure, but it was a bit unusual, I must admit. But not unusual, I would say, in Gordon Lee's way. It was his way of dealing with things, and I'm elated, but Joe's absolutely disappointed. He's so got it in his mind that he's playing. Yeah. But then that was just one or two of the things with Gordon. I remember sitting in a room in Southport one night before a home game with Martin Hodge this time, and we're sort of sitting in the room, and I think it was kickoff comes on about 10:30. Okay. You watch that, and then you turn the lights off and go to sleep with Gerald Sinstadt, and he'd be sort of talking and said Everton will be making one change this weekend, and me and Nodgy turned to each other. I wonder who that is. It was me. Right. He never even
That's how you found out.
That's how I found out. Yeah. So, it's ironic ways of actually finding that you're not playing. Yeah. We're very, very sort of different with Gordon, I must admit. Yeah.
And then obviously Howard came in 81, and there was a big turnaround of players, but an emerging young team of like yourself and others who come from the ranks and ones that brought in.
I think we were looking at each other, me, Sharpie, there was Brian Burrow, Steve McMahon, Joe McBride, Paul Lodge, and a few others on the sort of outside, sort of thinking that he brought us 7 players in that pre-season. Yeah, and we're looking at each other and think 7 players. That's us back in the queue again. Yeah. Now we weren't quite sure, if we were actually good enough. Then you're looking at yourself. You're 21, 22 next birthday, and you're thinking, we should be knocking on the door here. And I don't think Howard really because I knew he knew of me because he'd actually tried to take me to Blackburn. Okay. So he knew about me, but I think he thought I was a left back. Yeah. Because what I'd done is my first 3 games for Everton Football Club were at centre back. So that's my debut, the West Ham game in the cup, and Tottenham getting away. And the following year I ended up at left back for some reason. I think it was because they were a little bit concerned about John. He wasn't playing as well as maybe he was when Howard come in, but Howard knew him better. And they didn't want to go out and buy a replacement, so they tried different things, putting me at left back. And obviously it didn't work out. Howard comes in, brings them 7. And we're thinking, back the queue, we're not quite good enough, or we're not quite ready. Yeah. That's another thing. And I think maybe when he got in that he realised that the players that he brought in, but maybe at the time, just a little bit better than us. Not a great, but would they improve at the age that they were coming in? Whereas we were 20, 21, me and Sharpie especially. And, he starts bringing in players like the 7, but following on, his signings got a lot better. Out of them 7, there was only 2. Yeah. Neville and Jim Arnold that actually come through. Yeah. And then he started bringing in the likes of Reedy, which didn't work out straight away. Okay. Everybody thinks that Reedy come in and that was a massive change. He couldn't get in the side to start with. Right. Adrian Heath had been brought in before. He he started off really poor. Couldn't hit a barn door.
Right.
You know, one-on-ones with a keeper, and you know,
a lot of money as well paid for it.
I think it was the record fee, $750 or something. And I think his masterstroke was dropping Adrian into midfield to take the pressure off him, you know, off his goal scoring. And I think it helped him immensely, and it helped us as well. And then Reedy got in, Andy come into the squad, and that seems that with, I think, Derek getting in a couple of weeks later.
Yeah.
And Colin Harvey being promoted from first team reserve team coach to first team coach. That was the big one.
Yeah. It's a turning point, yeah.
Yeah, that for me. I mean, obviously, Andy coming into the squad, really getting to play. Strong characters. Colin was a strong character, had high standards.
Yeah.
Not just on the pitch, but in training.
Yeah.
So that all changed where it was Mick Eaton, lovely fella, but it was a little bit too relaxed.
Okay.
The intensity with Colin was immense. And, you know, I'd known that because I was, you know, come through as an apprentice where he took me as the youth team coach. Then he was my reserve team coach. Yeah. So Colin knew everything about me.
Yeah.
I think to some of the older lads at the time it was a big shock.
Really?
Colin coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know? And the way that he used to talk to some people, he didn't get to who you were, what you'd done in the game, how much you'd signed for. Yeah. You know, a bit like the groundsman.
Yeah.
The groundsman was brilliant.
Okay.
He used to, Dougie Rose used to come in, and it didn't matter how many years you'd be here. No. If you walked in the tea room and said, all right, morning. Oh, you still here?
Yeah.
You know, things like that. Yeah. That's the groundsman there. Yeah. Really good times.
And obviously there's been a struggle for you at the start. You weren't getting as much game time as you wanted, but then you were in the side. Then you were actually captain from a very young age as well.
Yeah, I got thrown with captain's armband on a pre-season tour up with Dundee.
Okay.
Dundee United, and Iggy sat out the match, and he threw me the armband. And when you think, you know, in that team, most of the players that are the Magnificent Seven, Dave Johnson had been brought in. And you're looking round and you're thinking, why me? You know, and I still don't know why he did it to this day. So, but I'm sure Colin had a big influence in that.
In Howard's ear, as it were,
Yeah. I don't think, obviously, Colin was involved with the first team. Yeah. But as a youth team coach, a reserve team coach, he must have, you know, he must have said something. And he must have sort of seen leadership qualities or things that he wanted. Because when you're picking a captain, you've got to, I think, look for consistency.
Yeah.
A leader, obviously, but the consistency means that you're playing every game.
Yeah.
You know, you are on that team sheet.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've not had that for a while. But you know, they're the things that, you know, that I you know, would say that you have to look for. You know, you don't have to be the greatest player in the team to be the captain. Yeah. You know. But so there's certain qualities you do need.
Yeah. And then, as you said, I'd like to read coming in and Andy Gray, that 83-84 season. I mean, it was the club's first trophy in 14 years. And I believe your youngest captain is Bobby Moore to lift the FA Cup.
Yeah. It's and last player to walk up the, was it 69 steps, I think it was.
Right.
Yeah. So, because of obviously the troubles in Ireland, for the security reasons, they dropped the steps.
Right, okay.
So that is a nice little thing to have to last captain to walk up the thing that was 69 steps.
Yeah.
Going up. It's...
Being a lifelong Evertonian, massive moment for both yourself and the family.
The dad, you know, my nan was, you know, one of my nans was still alive, so she was over the moon about it. All she wanted to know was what the Queen Mother had actually said to me.
Do you remember?
I just told her. She said, "I'm sorry, it's pissing down." She said she never did.
Sounds like something she might have said.
It was. It did rain for a little while. I think that, you know, it's. You know, growing up in them days, that was one of the things that you always wanted to win, was the FA Cup. Yeah. I don't think it's as much now, growing up as a kid.
It's changed, hasn't it?
It's Champions League, Premier League. But then it was the FA Cup, massive. The publicity you got for it on the day was like no other game.
Yeah.
So it was, Yeah, it was a great occasion, great night. But not only great occasions are great nights when you win games, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, that was one of the things Howard said. You know, enjoy yourself. You only enjoy yourself if you win.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a big... And we were favourites to win it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's... You know, especially when you're not winning league titles at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's talking as well about big occasions, big night. That takes us nicely on to the following year. Goodson's greatest night, in everyone's opinion, really, who was there. And there's plenty who claim to be there. I think there's about 500,000. There's Bayern Munich that night.
You've got to say half of them are dead now as well. So there could have been 1 million.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're throwing the first leg 0-0 over in Munich, and obviously fallen behind. I mean, it's the night everybody talks about the famous thing Howard saying to you that the Gladys Street suck the balance. And what are your memories from that night? Because it was a battle, wasn't it? It certainly was a battle.
That was World War III. My fire, it was like blood and thunder.
Yeah.
And if you see footage of it, some of the football that was played, on the pitch, you're thinking, gee, that's, it's, and we knew it was our final.
Yeah.
You win this, you've got a good chance of winning.
Yeah.
Only a minor sort of disaster of maybe sort of 7 or 8 of you having a bad off day against Rapid Vienna would maybe ruin it. And maybe the game might have been too big. But there was no game too big for us at that moment in time. The bigger the game, the bigger we rose to things. Mainly because of the unity that we had with us all.
Yeah.
That was the bonding that we bonded together. The team spirit that we had was just like I've never experienced it. Yeah. I think when we go out now, people look at us and see why we won things.
Yeah, 35 years on.
Just being in our company for 5 minutes, the way that we speak to each other.
Yeah.
Very rarely do we pat each other on the back.
Okay. Yeah.
It's always detrimental.
Yeah.
And if we're seeing games and footage of games, it's always a black spot in the game that he'll pick up on.
Really? Yeah. But that spurred you on to win.
Yeah, but it also keeps that bond together because you're like on your toes. You can't say anything wrong in front of them bunch of lads. You get picked up straight away.
Yeah.
But no, it was a great time to play with some great players and be, you talk about matches, some memorable sort of days with the lads are like the coach journeys to games on Friday.
Okay.
Things like that you miss more than anything. Yeah,
just the routine of it, the banter.
Yeah. That is a big thing when you finish playing.
Yeah.
We didn't have headphones then. I think Walkmans were just coming in.
Yeah.
But they had these.
So you actually had to talk to each other.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, definitely.
And we obviously did mention that famous quote, isn't it, from the Bayern bench, Mr. Kendall, this is not football. But you were mixing it, but you could play as well, it seems, certainly.
Well, I think Howard, tactically, he was spot on. Yeah. More times than he wasn't. Yeah. Which, that's why I was successful as a manager. But, picking on things. I always remember at half-time and turning around to everybody and saying to me and Derek, really, I don't want you getting the ball up from everywhere.
Okay.
That's all. You two don't get the ball. I said, if you can't, he said to Nev, you can't get it out to the full-backs, you kick it long. We squeeze up and we pen them in. Yeah. We get everything in the box. And we will. No one is a team that's going to throw long balls into but Gary had a decent throw and Pat, wasn't as good as Gary, but, I don't think he was as consistent as Gary throwing the ball into the box, hitting that sort of like just before the 6 or just in the 6-yard box. And, we capitalised on it. They couldn't live with us.
Yeah.
I think they couldn't live with our fitness.
Okay. Yeah.
And we weren't run to the ground by Howard.
Right.
I think they were like, we must have been on something.
Right.
Believe me, we were not on anything other than a cup of tea at half time.
Yeah.
And I can always remember that I never ever felt tired at a night game.
Okay.
At Goodison Park. I felt as I could run forever.
Was part of that the crowd then, spurring you on?
Yeah, I think so. It's always better. It's always better, the atmosphere at a night game at Goodison. You think about the good nights that we've had, the Bayern Munich, Man United, I think, was a night game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did Duncan score?
Oh yeah, when Duncan scored, in 05,
So, you remember them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, after that, it was lifting the first of your 2 league championship trophies, and they were 2 league championship trophies because it was actually the different one, wasn't it? It was the Cannon League, wasn't it? In 85.
Yeah, I think he come with the championship one as well.
Yeah,
he still got that.
Okay, yeah,
which I think is a fantastic trophy.
Yeah,
the Premier League is more of a modern trophy, right? But the history of that championship, which is equal to the Premiership.
Yeah,
it's just, and I always remember getting the Cannon.
Yeah,
and I think it was Mr. Carter gave us the Cannon.
Okay,
or something like. Oh, he had the championship one,
right?
And as soon as he got the champion Cannon, I just went passes that other one.
Yeah, You've seen that for 100 years. That's been a trophy.
Didn't look. If I played for that all year.
Yeah. I think Andy Gray described it as an Art Nouveau piece of furniture or something like that.
Yeah, well, obviously it wasn't going to go in my house.
Yeah. Well, there's a great sort of accolade for yourself. I mean, sort of bittersweet. You're the only man alive now to have lifted the league championship for Everton. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's a special place for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, playing at that time's a special place.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to play with some good players.
Yeah.
Some class players as well, and it's always disappointing when it comes to an end, and people will say that. I always remember Andy King saying to me, the biggest thing you'll actually miss from leaving Everton Football Club is Belfield training ground.
Yeah,
and he's right.
Similar to that with it, the journeys on the coach again, being with the lads and the routine
every day. Under Howard, he made it enjoyable to actually go in. You enjoyed training, but you miss, like I said before, Dougie Rose, the groundsman, Sid, Dave Ash, the janitor, and the dinner ladies.
Yeah,
you miss them just as much as you miss the players because without them, that team spirit's not there because they were a big part of Everton Football Club in my eyes.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about the people, because when I was speaking to Jimmy Martin, he said he actually preferred Belfield to Finch Farm, but that when he's talking as a building, but I mean, how much is it?
Yeah, but the thing is, what he's talking about is everybody's together.
Yeah,
there's more into it. You look now and, the first team eat over there and the academy eat somewhere else. And, I just think that is... sometimes you can be in or there with the first team, but if you always mix it, I mean, you used to eat at different times.
Yeah.
I mean, the apprentices couldn't go until after a week more or less finished. So if we were eating, say, around about 12:30, I don't think they were allowed in till about 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And they were all set up. They all had to sit down together. Where the first team would be coming in, sort of, and some wouldn't stay for anything to eat.
Yeah.
But the diets then was so different than what we have now. I mean, we always knew that if we were having oxtail soup on a Monday to start, that's what you were given opportunities to have, an oxtail soup or what we called an eye bath, which was like an orange. About that much.
All right, okay.
That's all you were given.
Really?
And you couldn't have any more.
Okay.
And if you had oxtail soup, you were going to get either beef or pork the next day, because the oxtail soup was used as gravy.
Okay.
So, there's all this luxury.
Yeah.
I think they started getting chefs in because the ladies that used to do, Carol and Betty and Mary, they were cooks, they weren't chefs.
Yeah.
Then we started towards the end, we'd be getting chefs in to do certain things, but nutrition still no different than what we were getting.
Yeah. And obviously he's at the 85 team, and when 87, in very different senses, because you had awful injuries that year, and obviously against adversity.
I can't remember how many different centre backs I played with.
Really?
I know I played with Gary once, Gary Stevens, obviously, and Dave Watson. Was Derek still there?
Was Derek? Yeah, I think he would have been there when Dave came in, didn't he, during the season?
Yeah, and then Pat.
Yeah.
Ian Atkins.
Really? Yeah.
I played with about 5 different centre-backs.
Yeah.
So, and some of them were all different in types of players that they were, you know. But it was, I think 22 players that year got medals. And when you're thinking, that's nothing now.
Yeah. But then,
the squads were a lot smaller. And I would always made sure that people who had made a contribution got a medal by putting them sub, because remember, I think it went from 1 sub to 2 or 3 subs within a short period of time.
Yeah.
So that first championship medal we won, I think there was only 1 sub.
Yeah.
The second one, I'm sure there was 2. So he used to, even for that first league win, and he used to make sure that people who'd only played, I think he had to play about 8 games or something like that, maybe even more.
Yeah.
I think it was 12.
Okay.
So that was including coming on as a sub.
Okay.
So the likes of Neil Adams, say, had got 10 appearances. He'd make sure that he'd get 12.
Yeah.
By putting him on sub. He'd put him in sub, even if it was on for 5 minutes. Yeah. So he looked after players in that way, which I thought was, good management to keep the team spirit.
Yeah. I mean, people forget how young he was back then as well, because obviously you think it's only about 5. Yeah, when he came back, what was he like? Yeah.
He was great when you had the ball. That was the same in training, by the way. Yeah. But he wasn't so great getting the ball back anymore.
Okay.
If you would know what I mean. But his qualities, his first touch, his awareness was,
Well,
you can see why I was at. Well, Colin couldn't run. That's the only reason he couldn't play. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm sure he would have. Yeah. He was. Yeah. The pain he must have been going through, and he still trained. Yeah. Put himself through it. Head tennis is still competitive. Yeah. Oh, that's the one thing is somebody asked you, what do you think about Colin? Competitiveness. That's what he was all about. Yeah. And I always remember him saying, if you go, especially midfield players, if you're going through a bad period in the game, just sit on your man for 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah. Just do the easy things. Get yourself back in the game. And I thought, what a great bit of advice. Yeah. I don't see that now. If somebody's having a bad game, they try to do something world-beating stuff, where a worldly sort of pass or shot from 40, just get yourself back in the game, sit on your man, and make sure, all he was telling you is make sure your man don't have an impact on the game that you're playing against. If you're not playing well, make sure he doesn't. Yeah. And that's, you don't see that.
No, it's sound advice.
Well, sound advice, it's coaching. Yeah. Coaching, man.
And you mentioned obviously you did the night games at Goodison, and I want to cover a couple of those with the derbies going towards like the latter end of the Everton career. 2 very different circumstances. Obviously, we did the game after Hillsborough. It was Liverpool's first game back. It was 0-0, but they had all of the blue and red scarves across the pitch. I mean, what was it like to play in a game like that, an emotional night like that for Merseyside?
The 4-4, you're on about more.
No, well, there's a chair I was going to come on to that. First of all, the first game just after Hillsborough, when it was 0-0, and it was Liverpool's first game back, and just the way that the city was united that night.
It was unbelievable. The way that united. It actually brought, the city closer. Yeah, I think. Which was, it takes something like that to get closer. Yeah. The hardest thing was the FA Cup final for me.
Yeah, just all the
talk was about Liverpool. Yeah, there's 2 teams played in that final. Not just the one, and it just seems it's a negative thought in your head. But how are you going to win the game? Yeah, and everybody wants Liverpool to win it. They wanted to give the trophy to Liverpool. Yeah, before the game. Yeah, as in fact, why should we play the game? Yeah. It was, and it was, tough to sort of do. Yeah. For me, it's easy to say this now because we didn't win. I think it might have been easier to scrap the competition knowing that we both got there.
Given the circumstances what had gone on. Yeah.
But it was such a big thing. Yeah. The FA Cup them days. Yeah. I do think that maybe looking back, it could have been a thing they could have. Yeah, I'm sure they thought about it at the time. Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, as you mentioned, was the 4-4. It could have been an enjoyable experience, I guess, for yourself, all those goals.
Well, you say it's a memorable game for you, but no, it isn't for the defender. Yeah. And especially when you're at fault for one. Right. And that was the first one. Yeah. But, you look at some of the goals and some of the players that played in that. John Barnes. Yeah. Peter Beasley for Liverpool. I mean, when Peter comes to our place, why they got rid of him, I don't know. Yeah. Because he was like head and shoulders ahead of everybody in our side. Yeah. He'd come and the likes of myself and other players were maybe on the way out. I think he come round about 90, did he?
Yeah,
89, 90.
91, I think.
Yeah, and he was tremendous. You know, his training, everything about him. He was a top class pro and player.
Yeah,
and he scored one of the goals against us.
Yeah,
but I don't remember too much about it, I must admit.
Yeah,
4-4. I remember I was involved in it. I remember before the game, Howard had said to me, because was that the replay?
Yeah, that was the replay, wasn't it? Yeah, drawn at Anfield and a replay, and he won the second replay.
Because he said to me in the first game, he said that we're going to play 3 at the back.
Right.
And I thought, great, that'll soon be. You know, because I wasn't going through a great period at that time. I was a little bit unsettled. I was really down over certain things that were happening at the club. And he said, I'm going to play 3 at the back. And I thought, great, I play that way for Wales.
Yeah.
I play as a sweeper, you know, great. He said, right. He said, Dave and Rats, he said, you man mark. So one of you mark Beardsley and one of you mark Rush.
Okay.
And Martin will be the sweeper. And I went, Martin Keown, sweeper, can't read a book.
Yeah.
You know, at that time, he turned out to be a very, very good player when he went back to Arsenal. But at the time, I'm thinking, and, you know, I've done a job on Peter in the first game, 0-0. Dave's done a job, and Martin. But there were sort of cracks in that, you know, I didn't have confidence if that ball went into a bit of space behind me, that Martin would actually read it. It was his pace that was getting him out of trouble because Martin was really, really quick. And I thought, so the next game, Clint said, right, you got the 3 of us together. And I was a little bit angry with Howard at this time. Okay. I was like, there's certain things happening. And he turned around and he said, right, same again, but we're just going to change it a little bit at the back, Rats. So you have me, Derek, me, Wacky, and Martin. And then he said to me, he says, you go as sweeper, or do you want to go as sweeper, or do you want a man mark? And I went, I'll go man mark.
All right, yeah.
Not man mark. I'm going to show you you're wrong.
Yeah.
And then it was 4-4. But Peter was clever enough to draw me out of position in the second game. Yeah. That's why there were 4 goals. Right. You know, because I was getting drawn out to the left wing. Yeah. Because he was going out to the left. Oh, what do I do? We've got told to man mark it. Yeah. So I was going by the book. Yeah. You know, and you know, I can't remember the third game where we won 1-0, Dave Watson goal. Yeah, it was kind of like anti-climax. Kenny had gone by then. Yeah, well, after that game, he went, didn't he? Yeah. I remember that now. Yeah. But, that was the big thing that I had. And I could sense then that I was going to be, sooner or later, this is me now, that I'm coming to the end. Okay. You know, he's looking at other things. So, yeah. So it was because obviously when you're at the peak of your power, rivaling ground as being the quickest defender in the first division. I mean, how much of it was about reading the game then in terms of your both, I think. You know, I think, you know, you have to have a certain amount of in your knowledge to sort of read the game and obviously the pace. But the one thing is knowing how quick you are. Yeah. And Nev knowing how quick I am, the understanding that we had is how far of a line between us that when he's going to come for a ball, or is he going to sit back? Because you got to remember in them days you could pass back to the keeper. Yeah. So I've got to say that I had most probably 99% of possession. Yeah. That I didn't give the ball away because I was always giving it to Nev and Nev was giving it to me. Yeah. You know, that thing. So that's where I think stats a little bit wrong. I can't finish this without asking you about Nev. Do you mean what's it like to have a goalkeeper like that guy? Unbelievable. Yeah. Like I said, that when we played in that 3, I didn't have the confidence with Martin. Yeah. At that time, because I'm not too sure how old Martin was then. Yeah. Because obviously he went on back to Villa, didn't he? He went to Villa, then Arsenal. I think he was. So relatively young and inexperienced, but with Nev, you know, if it went past me, that Nev knew if I was going to get it or he needed to come, type of thing. Yeah. I had this thing in Nev, and he brought it up a couple of weeks back, saying about when we were doing a talk that I always know with Rats. And I always used to say, man, I used to give the striker a part of the goal to shoot at. Okay. I didn't give him all the goal, but I gave him part of the goal. Yeah. So if I'm giving a part of the goal, the keeper's got to realise that I'm coming off the near post.
Yeah.
So the ball's only going to go in the other corner, unless it goes through my legs.
Yeah.
And Nev adjusted his body to that. But I see keepers now standing behind centre-backs, right? And they've got the right-hand side of the goal or the left-hand side of the goal to. And I'm thinking, well, why isn't he cutting off one of the sides, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the understanding I had with Nev. And he had the understanding with me that's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
But what a keeper.
Yeah.
People don't, sort of, why do you keep going on about Neville's health all the time? Because he was that good.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to hear Bruce Grobler talk about Nev in a speech one day and saying how good the two of them were at the time. And they were. Yeah. They were really good. And I think Bruce said that you can't call him world class because he never played. And myself, he said, you can't call us world class because we never played at the top stage of the World Cup.
Okay.
And I think that's the only doubt in everybody's mind is that. But then again, he was playing for Wales, so he might have been. Yeah. But no, he was world class in my eyes.
Yeah. And just finally, then, and obviously, Goodison Park. It's been like the ground of your life, and so many Evertonians. You talked about how you miss Belfield. Then, I mean, as much as it's progress and it's going forward to the new stadium, just how much you're going to miss about Goodison, and what will you miss about it?
What we miss about it's changed so much.
Yeah.
Is it the Goodison of, I played at Goodison when there was the arc behind the pitch.
Yeah.
I think I've played in front of 62,000 there.
Yeah.
And if anything, the ground's got bigger.
Yeah.
And there's only 39,000, 40,000 in the game. So, you'll miss it because it's going to be a hard job to actually get that atmosphere that we've had at Goodison in the new stadium. Mm-hmm. That's my biggest thing. I hope we get that atmosphere that we've had at Goodison, at Bramall. And I really, really hope that we regain that, we take that with us, because especially the night games, you feel more unbeatable.
Yeah.
So many great nights that we've had there. I've had great Saturdays there as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's when we used to play Saturday or a midweek, not a Sunday or a Friday night. So I think we were the first club to play a Friday night game against Chelsea.
Okay.
In 84-85 season when we won the league. Yeah. Because we'd lost the first two games, Tottenham at home and West Brom away.
Okay.
And then we played Chelsea on a Friday night. Kevin Ratcliffe got a goal playing instead of Kevin Sheedy. And that was the first Friday night game that was shown on TV.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's a bit of difference actually preparing. I'm sure they've got used to it now. Or, when you listen to them, they don't really seem to understand or not understand. But it is preparing for the game is the most important thing. You know that all of a sudden, like your Thursdays become a Friday.
Yeah.
And then the time that you kick off is like 4:30 on a Sunday or 2:30, whatever it is, where it was always 3:00. So every week you knew what you were doing and it was easy to prepare for the game.
Okay.
I think now looking at it must be pretty hard, not just for you as a player, but I think as a manager, how you prepare.
Yeah, definitely.
For me, see, with a game on a Saturday, the Thursday for me was the biggest, most important day of the week.
Really,
as to train. If I didn't train on a Thursday, I knew that I was going to be breathing heavy on a Saturday.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that was psychologically or whatever, or built myself up mentally. Is that what I needed to do? Yeah. And it was just, me. Yeah. But I did feel as if the Thursday was the most important day.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. What a start for us, Kevin Ratcliffe, and these Goodison Park memories. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Cheers. Thanks, Chris.